Hi, I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today's show is the Lupus Alliance of America, Michigan and Indiana affiliate. Hurry back and join us. I'm your host, Marsha Florence for Just Ask. Today's show is the Lupus Alliance of America, the Michigan and Indiana affiliate, and we have with us himself, the Executive Director, Chuck Pottinger. Good morning, Chuck.
Good morning.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you for inviting us.
Good. Now, I want to know, starting with you, as an Executive Director, can you tell us what your role is and about Lupus Alliance?
Well, the role as an executive director in a small organization like ours wears a lot of hats. From working on educational programs to helping build new support group meetings, to working on fundraising events, to working on the website, to answering the phone. In many instances, that's what we do. The Lupus Alliance is celebrating its 35th year, working in Michigan and northern Indiana, helping people who have lupus or who are newly diagnosed to lupus, find out what lupus is as a disease, and helping them with the questions that they have when they're first diagnosed or when they've been diagnosed for many years and they just have general questions about aspects of the disease that may be troubling them, that they cannot get all the answers that they're looking for. So they'll come to us for those kind of questions.
Can you briefly tell us what is lupus?
Lupus is an autoimmune disease where your immune system that's supposed to fight flus, colds, viruses, actually starts attacking not a flu or a cold, but actually starts attacking healthy tissue. So it's your immune system that's gone haywire and is actually can go after any major organ in a person's body. When we talk about systemic lupus, what that means is it's a system-wide disease, and it can attack just about any organ in a person's body. And so that's what we say about lupus is lupus is a body against itself.
Okay, but how does one know if they have lupus, or what are some of the symptoms?
There's 11 criteria that the American College of Rheumatology has put out there about symptoms of lupus, and usually what happens is there's these criteria. If you have 3 or 4 of them, they suspect that you might have lupus. And so it's recommended that if you have these symptoms, that you need to see a rheumatologist or someone who treats people with a rheumatoid type of disease so they can better check you. There's no one test that somebody can take that will say, yes, you have lupus, or no, you don't have lupus. And that's the difficulty of diagnosing this disease.
But if an individual is not feeling well, something's constant, is it fatigue, is it sneezing, is it headaches? What would be, because I know some conditions sound like one thing, could be another. So it could be joint efforts, but what are some of the...
Right. A lot of the problems are extreme fatigue with lupus. Joint and muscle pain are very close, or very similar to arthritic type of conditions. But then there's other areas that get much more serious. When we talk about fatigue, we talk about just bone tiredness, that you wake up after sleeping for 8 hours and you don't feel like you've rested. There's also some indications of nose ulcers and mouth ulcers, things like that. Hair loss, what's called alopecia. The other symptoms might be pleurisy, which is trouble with breathing, and pain in the chest area, and also kidney involvement. If you have any kind of kidney problems, it may be an indication that there's lupus that's attacking your kidney as well.
Now, is there a particular population that lupus attacks, or?
It's much more prevalent in women of color. First of all, let me say 9 out of 10 people who have lupus are usually women.
Okay.
So 90% of people who are diagnosed with lupus are women. Doesn't mean that men don't get lupus, but it does mean that 9 out of 10 are women. But then when you look into women of color, that's when the prevalence of lupus becomes even much more aware. In that area, it's 1 in every 60 people who may have lupus, whereas in the Caucasian race, it's 1 in every 185 people.
Okay. What about age criteria? Is it cover any particular age? I mean, women of color, you're saying, could be just general women.
Right.
Okay, but what about age?
Usually attacks women in their childbearing years, which is the worst time in the world for something like this disease to happen, because it's usually when they're the most active in their lives. You know, they're either starting a family or raising a family. They have a career, and so it really affects people at the prime of their lives, and so that's a very difficult time, of course, to have any kind of diagnosis of a disease like this.
Wow. Okay. So childbearing years. Okay. And then, but is there like, if you get through it, say past your 20s or 30s, can you still get it later life?
Absolutely.
Okay.
There are many times when people get a diagnosis of lupus when they're later in their life, and they may not have known that they've had lupus for a long time or a long period of time before that. But typically it is in the younger years when you get your diagnosis, and of course that's when it becomes the most debilitating of a disease, when it happens in that area.
Because it sounds like in your younger years, or 20s and 30s rather, that since you said you might be more so active and everything, that if you have signs or symptoms of fatigue, aching bones and things like that, that may be some of the critical points to show that something's going wrong.
Correct.
Okay.
And if you do notice these types of things, and we tend to, as human beings, we just tend to ignore a lot of pain and things like that, especially when you're raising children and you're trying to keep a career and everything else and balance the checkbook. You tend to just think, oh, I'm just tired, you know, it's just a long day, I'm just tired. And so a lot of times some of these things just go unnoticed or untreated as well, and that's unfortunate.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, Chuck, we're going to take a commercial break, and ladies and gentlemen, when we come back, we're going to learn more about the Lupus Alliance of America, the Michigan and Indiana affiliate. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Troy Gentry of Montgomery Gentry. From a mom struggle with cancer, I know the impact life-threatening disease can have on a family. Unfortunately, even having health insurance doesn't always guarantee you to be able to receive the care prescribed by your doctor. And for those without insurance, it can be impossible. Whether you have no health insurance or facing health insurance denials, the nonprofit Patient Advocate Foundation can help at no charge to you when you're faced with a life-threatening disease. Call PAF today at 1-800-532-5274 or go online to patientadvocate.org.
And welcome back to the second half of the show. Now, those of you who are just now joining us, we have the executive director himself, Chuck Pottinger, from the Lupus Alliance of America, the Michigan and Indiana affiliate. Now, Chuck, I got to ask, why is it Michigan and Indiana affiliate?
Well, we serve a population of all of Michigan, and we also help Northeast Indiana. We have a couple of support groups, or peer groups that we call them, that meet in those areas, and so we also provide services to those areas through those group leaders and through other events that we do with them during the course of the year. So we're traveling all over the state and northern Indiana as well.
Oh, okay. Is lupus one of those conditions that's curable?
There is no cure for lupus, unfortunately. Lupus is a disease of flares and remissions, though, and many people can go for a number of years where their lupus will go into remission and they won't have nearly the problems or the signs or the symptoms. But then, unfortunately, something may happen that could be stressful in a person's life, or something could cause that lupus to flare back up, and then they're back at the doctor's office on a regular basis and taking medications
So
for it.
stress is a concern for a person?
Absolutely. Stress is
Okay.
one of the major reasons that that lupus can be triggered in a person's life, and stressful events. That's why we talk about the childbearing years. Just the stress of going through
Wow.
raising a child or going through childbirth can bring on that stressful enough of an event to cause lupus.
So how is lupus treated?
Everybody's lupus is different. We talk about lupus being like snowflakes. No two snowflakes are alike, and no two people's lupus are alike. That's why it's very difficult for us as an organization to talk to people about treatment, because everybody's lupus has to be tailored to what their body will do and respond to medications. And most of the medications that people are on, some of them are just fairly easy to live with, but others are much more difficult to live with. Talking about high-dose steroid treatments in some instances, and we're also talking about chemotherapy treatments in some instances. And so it just has to be tailored to a person's body and what their needs are and how their lupus responds to that.
Now, when you mention stress, though, I mean, stress is one of those things that no matter if it's childbearing, marriage, job, any of those things that's stressful, that can trigger off lupus or any condition, really, because when you're under stress, there's a lot of things that go on in the body that sometimes will tell you you're stressful, and sometimes it won't let you know that you're stressed out. I mean, you can eat, overeat, can't sleep or sleep too much, grinding of the teeth, constant headache, fatigue. A lot of those symptoms are related to something or other, but stress is the key, and a lot of things come about through stress.
Correct. And one of the areas that we spend a great deal of our time in our peer group sessions is trying to help people understand how to avoid stress or how to deal with stress, how to better cope with stress, and to learn that having a network of people that you can turn to, and it's not always family members, it's other people with lupus that you have to turn to very often to just vent and be able to get those levels of stress down.
So you
in a
guys have
person.
support groups?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Very important, a very important aspect of the organization, and we're constantly expanding our area of services in areas where we're not providing peer group or support group networks for people, just because of the fact that it's so important to a patient to have an avenue where they can go and talk.
And that's one of the key reasons we ask you to come here today. A lot of people have conditions that they feel like they're the only one, or that they don't know too many people like themselves. And like you said, there's no two alike. It's like the snowflake effect, there's no two alike, but you still need to know that there is someone or an agency or a service out there that you can turn to get more information or education on it. How are you guys funded?
We are funded privately. We do fundraising events to raise the money that we need to run the operation, and we do events all over the state and in Indiana as well to help raise that funding. But most of the funds that we get are from private individuals who have a family member or who have lupus and who are concerned about the disease, making sure that we can still provide the services that we offer to people. And so it's an ongoing battle with us to help raise the necessary funds to keep programs available for people.
And awareness.
And awareness,
And
absolutely.
awareness. Okay. And we hope today that we can help you get the awareness information out, and people will start to step forth. Now, do you accept volunteers?
We do. Volunteers is the foundation of the organization. Was founded on all volunteers, and all of our board members are volunteer, of course, and all of our peer group leaders are volunteers. And so, without those volunteers, we couldn't do the job that we do within the organization out there for as many people as we're able to serve.
So we need a phone number, Chuck, so that the individuals who are interested in volunteering and becoming a part or wanting to know something, you have a phone number?
Well, they can call our 800 number. It's 705-6677.
Okay.
Or our local number, we're in St. Clair Shores, is 586-775-8310.
Okay.
And
Want to
so
give those numbers again?
800-705-6677 or 586-775-8310.
Okay. Now the 800 number will help those from Michigan and to Indiana. Right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Covers
okay.
all over the United States, actually. So
Great.
we do get calls from all over the country. Sometimes people find us through our website or something like that and
Well,
have questions.
you know you got a website. What's your web address?
Our web address is www.milupus.org.
Okay.
milupus.org is our web address.
Okay.
And MI stands for Michigan, Indiana, just in case people wonder what that's there for.
Okay, not just Michigan. Okay,
Right.
all right, all right. Well, that's good, because a lot of people are not certain where to locate information from, and the way of the web is part of it now, so
Absolutely.
that helps out. And 800 numbers are always a plus, and somebody has a general question. So do you guys have like volunteers or operators that if I just have a general question, I can get that answered? I'm not sure, but I think I got lupus. It's not like you're referring me to a doctor or anything, but I just need someone to talk to.
We do. We have trained staff people on staff 5 days a week. We also have which is new for us, we have a part-time social worker. She's a master's level social worker who has lupus herself. So she understands how people are going through these
Right.
troubling times, and she really can help them. And so she's there 1 day a week, and a lot of times we'll refer people to wait and to talk to her on the day that she's there. But she also does counseling in our office. And that's a service that we offer free of charge to
That's
people
great.
with lupus as well. So someone newly diagnosed can come into the office and have a true counseling session, or even family members can come in and help learn about lupus.
Okay. Is there ongoing research for this disease?
There is, and we're part of an organization called the Lupus Research Institute. And the Lupus Research Institute is they fund novel research. What they do is they help doctors that have an idea of a research project, but they can't get the big funding from National Institute of Health. They come to an organization like this, and they'll get a smaller grant, a $300,000 grant, that will help them get to the point where they can prove their hypotheses and then get bigger funding from NIH. And so it's been a very effective way of bringing new research programs to the forefront that we wouldn't have had a few years ago.
Wow, that's okay. That's worth. I mean, if you don't do research, how do you know, the impact on the next generation as well as the current ones that's going through the changes now?
Absolutely.
And do you know or have an idea how long lupus has been in existence?
It's been in existence for a very long time. In fact, the name lupus came from a Latin word for wolf, because people, when they first were diagnosed with the disease back in the 1800s, it looked like a wolf bite on a person's face. And so that's why the name lupus comes from the Latin word for wolf. And so it has been around for a very, very long time. And the treatment for lupus has been about the same for the last 40 years or so. But on the horizon are new medications coming through these research programs, and we have very high hopes that we will get to new medications in a very short period of time for people with lupus.
Okay. Well, we're going to take a break, and ladies and gentlemen, when we get back, we're going to find out what these lovely brochures are all about so that you can call the 800 number or the local number and request some more information on the Lupus Alliance of America. We'll be right back.
Do you know that stroke targets by color? If you're African American, you're twice as likely to suffer a stroke as white Americans. Join the power to end stroke at strokeassociation.org.
And welcome back to the last half of the show. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as usual, I always make a comment about every time one of the guests come on and give us some very helpful and supportive information about services. And there's a lot of individuals out there who may have lupus or some precondition that's like lupus, and you may want to learn more about it. Now, yet and still, if you're not sure and you want to talk to your doctor, have them test you and see if you have lupus, and tell him or her what the signs are that you want to know, that is this or is this that, or can they come up with a solution to tell you that come back in 6 months. A lot of times we have diseases that mask one another, and this may be one of them. And Chuck, I want you to touch on that in a few moments, but it's like people get one thing and it could be another. And so does lupus do the same as some other conditions? Does it mask over like it could be this, but it might be that?
It does, and that's one of the very real difficulties with the diagnosis of lupus with people, because it's very similar to rheumatoid arthritis, and then another disease is very prevalent now is fibromyalgia. And fibromyalgia symptoms and lupus symptoms are very similar. However, treatment options are totally different when it comes to the two. Unfortunately, many people have 2 or 3 diseases when they get a chronic illness, and so they may have the difficulties of all these things going on in their body. But the other problem with diagnosing lupus is lupus could be one kind of symptom one month, and a month later you could go to the doctor complaining about something completely different. And so it's very difficult for the doctors to even try and figure out what's going on in a person's body.
So there's room for change with lupus.
Absolutely. There's room for change constantly with this disease.
Okay. What's the impact on the family?
The impact on the family is very difficult. Of course, when you're talking about someone in the age that we're talking about, this is where they've got a growing family. Children don't quite understand why mommy's sick all the time or why daddy has all these difficulties. And so, and also with parents and grandparents. People have a difficulty understanding that because a person with lupus doesn't look sick, and that's what we talk about, is you just don't look sick. Many people wonder why you can't get out of bed and go do the housework and go to their job and still do all the things, make sure that you're at all the kids' events at school and everything. And so that it's a difficult time period. And so we spend a lot of time working with families on these understanding and coping with this disease, and what has to happen in the future, you know, to learn how to live with this disease with the family members and that. And so we do support groups for family members as well, as well as the other groups.
That's good, because a lot of the family members, like you said, don't know that you're not feeling well or that you may have this condition, and just wondering, oh, he's lazy, oh, she's never going to, she doesn't do anything, she lays down a lot. But they don't know that this condition is taking effect over the body itself. And you, the person who has it, may not know it either. You just, I'm just tired.
Just tired. Yeah. And when your immune system is acting like this, it's not shutting down ever. And so a person is always got some kind of turmoil going on in their body where they don't even realize it at points. And so they don't understand themselves why they're always tired.
Now, is a person with lupus eligible for disability?
Yes, they are.
Okay.
It is a disabling disease, and most of the time when people file for disability, they do need to get a lawyer involved in helping them with their disability claim, because of the fact that when you go before a judge and you don't look sick, what's the judge going to think? You know, you don't look sick. And so it's very key for people, if they are disabled, to make sure that they do get the help that they need.
Okay. A lot of you heard that. Okay. I want to go over some of the things that you have brought in today, and I want to start off with the myths or facts. And this here is a bookmark?
Correct.
Okay, and so tell us about this little bookmark here. It's cute.
Well, we have this character we call Max the Mythbuster that we've introduced this year, and we're going around to all the civic groups, schools, anywhere that people will allow us to talk about some of the myths and facts about lupus. And we just do a short presentation, and what we're asking people to do is help us distribute these bookmarks. We had 50,000 of them donated to us, and that's our goal, is to get the name and our phone number and address out there to people through this bookmark.
And it's got myths and facts on there.
It does.
And did you guys, what's the name of him? What's the character?
Max, the Mythbuster.
Did you see Max? Okay. That's got to be him.
Right.
All right. And this sheet right here.
That's...
test yourself for lupus.
Correct.
Okay. So a person can actually call and request a copy of all your literature.
All of our literature.
And this one here, Test Yourself for Lupus. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is a good piece right here, because you just want to see yourself generally if you have any of these side effects, right?
Symptoms, yes.
Symptoms, okay.
Right.
Okay. So.
And we say if you have 3 or 4 of these on a consistent basis, then you need to really have someone look at the fact that you may have an autoimmune disease like lupus.
Okay. 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 And the lupus self-screening test?
That's another one of the same kind of material. We have brochures for just about every aspect of the disease. Because of the fact that there's so many symptoms involved, we have tremendous amount of resources that people call and ask for on a regular basis. And so we have different aspects of literature for different aspects of the disease.
Okay.
And then we also create this newsletter.
Okay, this is a nice booklet. So someone can call and get this in the mail. Well, all this can come in the mail,
Absolutely.
right? Okay,
Right.
but this booklet is nice. Or is this your monthly newsletter?
It's
How's
a quarterly
this done?
newsletter that
Quarterly.
we produce through the Lupus Alliance, and then inside each newsletter there's a section about the events and things that are going on in Michigan and Indiana,
Okay.
particular to our area.
Okay, all right, all right. And I'm hoping that everyone can see this. It's a beautiful family here. And I want to ask you a question now. We know that it has to impact the entire family. So are there training classes, support groups that help the family as well as help the patient in need?
We do. We will do, as I mentioned before, we will offer individual and family counseling as part of services through the organization. But we also do an educational program called Significant Others, where we actually will go into a peer group or support group area because we have so many different areas. We can only limit when we can do these meetings, but we will break the group up and we'll let the people with lupus, the patients with lupus, talk to one another about their needs, but somebody else will take the family members off to another room and we'll stand there. We will talk about what the family's experiencing,
impact.
and give them an opportunity to talk about some of the things that are going on, how this disease is impacting their lives. Because we say that lupus may affect 1.5 to 2 million American people that are diagnosed with the disease, but when you start looking at how many family members that this disease affects, it's just the numbers just become astronomical when you talk about that. So we do have to provide that kind of service for people, and we do that as well.
That's great. That's great. Well, Chuck, we need the website and the 2 phone numbers again. I'm sure somebody's probably waiting at home to write that down. So can you give us that information again?
Okay, our website is milupus.org, milupus.org, and our phone number is 800-705-6677, or locally it's 586-775-8310.
Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're interested in volunteering, are there classes or programs so that a person just don't say, I want to volunteer, something in particular?
When we have volunteers, we do work with them. If it's a volunteer to do a peer group or something on that line, then of course we do have training that we go through with them. And that's part of the hats that we wear in the office, is to help them with training sessions. We also have training sessions put together for them that they can use, but we also want to make sure that they understand that there's certain things they can and that cannot talk about.
Okay.
We're not physicians. We can't diagnose diseases, and so we do a great deal of training with our peer group leaders and our support group leaders about those kinds of areas of things.
Okay. I'm your host, Marsha Florence with Just Ask, and what do I always say? If you know someone with a disability, or if you just have a general question, don't be afraid to ask. Just ask. I'm your host. Thank you.